Hi there, I'm Allison Kurak, owner of Stitch Real Estate Transaction Coordination Company, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Please be sure to subscribe and head to our channel to check out the rest of our content. We've got a ton of great tips for agents, transaction coordinators, and those aspiring to be transaction coordinators specifically too. So if you're returning to the channel, thank you for watching, and just a reminder to always hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you cannot miss any of our exciting new content. All right, now into the topic of today's video. So this is a question that I get a lot and I see other TCs talking about, and it's, for someone who's looking to become a transaction coordinator, it's, should I join a team? Should I start my own TC business? What should I do? Now, I can't answer that for you specifically, but I'm going to give you some key things to think about in this video that'll probably help guide you more towards your decision. So starting off, to give a little bit of background, I used to work as an independent contractor for a TC company. I also used to be a full-time in-house assistant at a brokerage, and now I own my own TC company. So I've kind of explored a lot of avenues, and I come from being an agent originally, so I feel like I can speak on this a lot, and also what led me to ultimately making those choices and ending up where I am today. So if you're kind of in this boat of, what should I do? Then one of the first things I want you to think about is actually more so about your priorities and your long-term goals. So what are you looking for in a transition to a career to be a transaction coordinator? Is it flexibility? Is it freedom? Is it utilizing some of your skill set? Maybe it's slowing down a little bit from a full-fledged real estate career. Or is it, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to own your own business, you want to be a leader, you want to have a team. Maybe you want to eventually be a hands-off role, more of just a supervisor. So obviously there's probably some little thing in the back of your head that's kind of driving you towards researching this, towards making these decisions. So first things first, you want to figure out what that motivator is. If your motivation is to be a leader, run a team, have your own company, and all of the benefits and things that come with that, then that might skew you more towards the starting your own TC business category. If you're maybe looking to slow down a little bit, looking for something part-time, maybe it makes more sense to join a team. And then in regards to freedom and flexibility, I think both can apply, right? So as a business owner, you're always going to have the utmost ownership of what you're doing. So in terms of flexibility and freedom. But on the other side of that, as a business owner, you're likely going to have the most falling on you all the time. So you think as the CEO or the owner or the manager that you probably have the most freedom to be like, oh, I'm not going to do that today. Take a day off. I'm going to do this, etc. But you might find once you get into it that it is quite a bit of work. And so maybe it wasn't exactly what you were thinking, especially at first. So something like that to keep in mind too. Now, in regards to a team, it really depends what kind of team you're on and what kind of role you take, what kind of, and when I say team, it could be a team like my team, it could be an in-office team at a brokerage. So there's all kinds of different structures to that. But so thinking that, a lot of teams, like my team, it's, we have standard hours and things like that we typically follow, but it's a flexible, wherever we're working, when we're working, how we're working. So there is still flexibility and freedom even in a team structure. But, that could vary depending on the role. So both of them have kind of pros and cons on that. That's why I think it's just most important to think about your long-term goals. You might, if you really desire to have your own company one day, maybe it doesn't make sense to start out joining a team. Maybe it makes sense to start just going full force. But if you're kind of maybe trying to slow down or you're looking for something part-time, then it might make more sense to join a team or take a salaried role, something like that. So think about not just what you want right now, but also what you want, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. What are your goals with starting this career? Where would you like to ideally end up? And that'll kind of put you to, is it something where I'm owning it, I'm in control, I'm potentially running a team, all of this stuff? Or is it, I just want to phase out, or I want to learn and then decide if this is even right for me, whatever the case may be. So it's important to think about first what those long-term goals are. Also, in terms of that, make sure you're thinking about your lifestyle and what you prioritize personally. If you are a full-blown solo entrepreneur and you're doing a level of TC work, you're handling files actively, you might not very easily be able to take off on a vacation, or if something comes up, an emergency, how are you going to handle that? Whereas in a team structure, it may be set up where you have PTO even, or you have team members you can rely on and things like that. So think about kind of your personal life, where it is now, but also where you want that to be in the future. Do you want to be totally in charge? How will you handle that? Or you want to be in charge, but you want to have your own team or people underneath you, an assistant, whatever it may be. So think about all those things. What's motivating you right now, but where also do you want to end up in the future? So that's one of the first things I want you to think about. Now, the second thing I want you to think about is your experience level, right? So a lot of people come to me and they're like, what if I don't have real estate experience? What if I don't have TC experience? And you need to analyze your level of experience and then your comfort based off that. So if you have 0 real estate experience and 0 TC experience, which I guess kind of go hand in hand, then it probably makes more sense to potentially join a team, or at least make sure if you want to start your own thing that you have found some type of, educational resource, you have a mentor, you have someone guiding you, something like that, or someone you can go to, some other type of training you can do, because starting just totally from scratch with 0 experience in transaction coordinating or just real estate in general is going to be a big learning curve. So if you have 0 experience in both, maybe that's something you're leaning towards joining a team or some type of position like that. Now, if you have a ton of real estate experience, but you've never been a TC, maybe it makes a little more sense that you feel more prepared to start your own company. In this case, and in all these cases, honestly, I still recommend having some type of mentor or support system, and thinking, do I have someone like that? Or is there somewhere I could go to? Is there training I've done? Is there training I'm budgeting for to do, education, things like that? Because even if you're just transitioning into TC role for the first time, from a lot of real estate experience, you're probably going to have a bunch of little questions come up. And if there's no one you can ask, that can be kind of difficult and frustrating. So it's important that maybe we revisit joining a team. That way we'd have someone always there to guide us, a mentor to train us. So if you have 0 experience, do you need that training? Or even at any experience level, right? Think, do you need that training? Am I going to need someone I can ask questions to? If I'm starting my own thing, do I have a mentor or a coach or someone I can reach out to? Have I done a training program? Is there a training program I'm interested in participating in or purchasing, whatever that may be? So think about your experience level, but then also think about, what your options are there. What kind of support can you have? What kind of training, knowledge, resources do you have available to you, or can you make available to you? Can you reach out and make some connections? Do you have a mentor? Do you have a coach? Anything like that? So thinking about your experience level, but also what resources you have available, that's something else really important to think about in terms of which route is best for you. Okay, and then I also want you to think about your strengths. So number 3 is think about your strengths. As I mentioned in the first point, something that's important is our long-term vision and our long-term goals. And we can always be working on ourselves and improving ourselves, but invertedly, you have some strengths already. And is your strength, leadership? Is it being a team leader, being a manager, supporting others, lifting them up, helping others, like being a great marketer, a salesperson? Those might be traits that lean more towards owning your own business. Not to say no one can learn those, but these might be traits of, these really are my strengths. So I really think I could do this, really off the bat. This is what I'm confident in. This is what I feel good about, etc. On the flip side, maybe you're a really great team member. Maybe you're really good at supporting others. You are uplifting others. You're a positive force. You are a really good communicator, but maybe you're not as excited about the idea of cold calling, going out, making connections with people, being a leader of a team. Maybe that's not as inspiring to you. And when I say leader, you could be a solo entrepreneur. So maybe that's something to think of too in your traits and your strengths. Do I work well independently? Am I self-motivated, self-disciplined? Because working kind of on an island by yourself, you have to have those things to keep yourself in line, disciplined, make sure the work's getting done and everything like that. So maybe it's more, I do better in a team setting. I like having people to bounce ideas off of. My strengths are brainstorming with others. My strengths are connecting with people on a team, helping each other out, anything like that. So there's all different kinds of strengths. And so think about what your strengths are and if they play into, owning your own business more, or maybe being a great team member more. And there's nothing wrong either way. That's why there's great options for everyone, and play to what your strengths are. Okay, and then the last thing I want you to think about is your level of work you're able or willing to take on, and also your risk, your tolerance, your risk you're willing to take on. So as a team member, you're likely jumping into either a salaried role, a contractor role, something like that on a team where everything's most likely already set up. They've got systems in place. They may be handling things like your payment for you. They may be handling insurance for you. They may be handling your software and already have it all set up for you. Whereas if you start your own business, you're gonna have to do all of those things from scratch. So picking which softwares and programs to use, figuring out your billing, figuring out how you're going to market, figuring out what your systems are, and setting the software up. And so one thing I do like about TC work and remote work is that it really does have a lower startup cost and not that much startup effort, which is really great because it makes it accessible. However, there is always going to be some work up front, some upfront costs, things like that are associated with starting a business. So thinking about, do I have the budget to do this? Do I have the time to do the startup of starting a business? Do I have the time to continue to commit? Is this something I'm comfortable doing? So thinking also about, is this something where I can just jump into a role and be trained? Or even if I know everything what I'm doing, where I can just walk into a role, they'll hand me clients on a silver platter, systems are all set up for me, etc. Or I really want to change how I'm doing it. I have unique ideas, or I'm just really confident in my ideas and my processes, and I can set this all up myself. As I mentioned, it's not a ton of setup work, but if you're not familiar with TC work or real estate, maybe you don't have as much experience with the different systems and things like that, then having a team already set that up for you, give you more of an environment to just come in and flourish or come in and learn, versus having to do all the business setup and then the risk that comes with that, right? Now your risk level, depending on your role with a team, may be different, and as a business owner as well, but there's always going to be risk associated with am I doing the right thing? Is this what I need to be doing? Financial risk of the business, and what you're putting into it and things like that. And real estate's a seasonal business. So even if you're on a team, depending what your pay structure looks like, thinking about that, am I willing to bet 100% on myself and take all this on? So I think thinking about all of these things will hopefully have you have a closer answer to the question of, should you start your own TC business or join a team, take a salary job? What should you do? Please take some time to think about these things. As a reminder, we want to think about our priorities and our long-term goals. We want to think about what our strengths are. We want to think about what kind of risk we're taking on, or, what we're willing to do in terms of work, what we have time for, what's our capacity, and then also about our experience level and the resources we have available to us. If you think of all of these different topics, then you will have a good idea on where you stand and what you feel most comfortable with. But at the end of the day, make sure you're following your heart, you're following your mind, you're following your dreams. Anybody can make a great career out of this for themselves. Any questions you have for me, anything you want to dive deeper on, if you want to bounce one of these topics off me, drop a comment below. I always get back to my comments, and then I might make a video about it too to help you more. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a question I've gotten a lot, so I want to make sure I have some of my followers who may be struggling with this. If you're someone who's been struggling with this, that this helps guide you a little bit, gives you a little perspective on things I've thought of and what I would encourage TCs to think of now and potential TCs. So thank you again for watching. Head to our channel to check out the rest of our great content and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks, y'all.